perspective. And joining me now for more is Democratic Congresswoman from Virginia, Jennifer McClellan. Thank you very much for joining us, getting to the other side of the aisle on all this. So first, I'm just going to ask you your remarks on what we just heard her say.
Well, what my colleague from Louisiana said is not consistent with what I'm actually seeing and hearing on the ground here in Virginia, not just in my district, but across the entire Commonwealth. Let's start with education. School starts in 3 weeks here. And our schools have been waiting for that grant money to help fill in gaps so that they can be prepared for the students to come in. And they're worried. I've spoken to my local and state officials. They cannot fill the gaps left by the Department of Education if it is dismantled or defunded. They're already struggling with the workforce cuts, as particularly around dealing with students with disabilities and making sure they have the resources that they need to learn. That's why the department was created, was to fill in these gaps. On the tariffs, my farmers are scared. My farmers, most of them here are small and family-owned farms. They have seen their costs rise. They are worried about the ability to export particularly soy and corn to other countries, as when the last time there was a trade war, Brazil began to eat into their exports. So they're worried and they're strapped, and they're waiting for a farm bill that Congress has not even begun to address. And so what I'm hearing on the ground from my small business owners, whether it's the bridal shop owner who has seen dresses go up 20% in some cases, they're all feeling the pain now. They're feeling the anxiety around lack of certainty now, and they're being pinched now. They're seeing their costs continue to rise, and the president hasn't done anything about that. And with the big, ugly bill that just passed, healthcare costs, energy costs are all about to go up, while we are seeing energy jobs go away as the president and congressional Republicans kneecap the cleanest, fastest, and cheapest energy that we can get on the grid to meet demand.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to hang on when your gas tank is running on fumes. A lot of people have been saying that. The Commerce Department is reporting that Virginia's economy shrank 0.5% just this quarter. So what are some things that you're hoping will come out of these trade deals for your state? Because I imagine you're kind of looking over the fence to see what they're doing and how that's going to play out in your state.
We need certainty quickly. We need these tariff wars to end. But part of our issue here in Virginia is not just about the tariffs and the trade policy. We have the second highest number of federal employees, and Virginia is the only state where our unemployment rose in June. That is directly because of the federal workforce cuts, and that is impacting our state economy. That, and again, the bill that passed, the big ugly bill, and the changes to Medicaid are blowing a hole in our state budget, that our state and local governments are worried that they're going to either have to raise taxes on their own or significantly cut services. And our General Assembly is talking about a special session to deal with that in September. And so there's a lot of anxiety and pain here in Virginia, all across the state, in Democratic and Republican areas. And that's why we see the president's approval rating across the board tanking, particularly on issues that he thinks he's strong on, like the economy and immigration.
Well, speaking of immigration, you know, we've got this crackdown we're watching. The Trump administration suing New York City here over its sanctuary city policies. While Virginia is not a sanctuary state, what do you think? Should more cities be complying with Trump's deportation agenda? It's a huge issue here.
So 2 points that are really important to make. State and local governments are not required by law to enforce immigration laws. That's the federal government's job. State and local governments have a lot on their plate already. But what we are seeing here in Virginia, here in my district, from these crackdowns, with the ICE raiding courthouses and public spaces, it is starting to impact public safety. My prosecutors, my sheriffs, and my police chiefs have seen a precipitous drop in calls to 911, particularly in immigrant communities, particularly in domestic violence cases. People are not willing to report crimes. They're not willing to cooperate with police. They're not willing to be witnesses and testify in any cases. And my law enforcement is starting to see that and is worried that the trust that they had built across communities with citizens and non-citizens all across the region has broken down, and it is impacting public safety.
Yeah, so many people have concerns about that. I was just reporting on this yesterday here in New York City with what was going on with our off-duty CBP officer who was shot by somebody who was in the country illegally. So it's definitely something that we are watching very closely. Also, I got to ask you while you're here, turning to the Democratic Party, former Vice President Kamala Harris addressing youth voters at a Voters of Tomorrow summit in Washington, D.C. We've been watching this, encouraging ambition among Gen Z voters. Take a listen.
You know what's at stake, and you are not waiting for someone else to figure it out. You refuse to be passive. Not only are you demanding action, you are actively shaping the future. Keep building your political power. Keep building community. Keep building coalitions. Keep challenging the status quo. And born out of our love for our country, keep fighting to build a country and a nation that works for everyone. And I look forward to continuing in the fight alongside you.
Okay, so that was a pre-recorded 2-minute video message. Nancy Pelosi also spoke, but she did it in person. So, are these politicians who youth voters are looking to when it comes to the future of their party the right people to be in front of groups like this? What did you make of those messages?
I mean, first of all, I think all Democrats should be in front of young people right now because they're not just our future, they're the present of the party and our government. And if you look at from our founding, every critical moment in American history, particularly when we have made progress towards making the ideals upon which this country was founded true for everybody, young people have been at the forefront. And as John Lewis said, who we just commemorated the 5th anniversary of his passing, democracy is not a state. It is an act that requires every generation to do its part to build the beloved community. And so we need all young people to have a seat at the table and to be engaged. And every Democrat, no matter where they are on the spectrum, no matter who they are, should be speaking to Gen Z as well as every generation to do our part to build a stronger America.
Okay, and we've also been looking at polls, right? We were talking about Trump's poll numbers. The latest poll from the Wall Street Journal does show Democrats getting their lowest rating from voters in 35 years. So every time, we talk with Democrats about what your party is doing to turn around the public perception, trying to get those numbers up, trying to kind of reinvigorate. So where do you see that going? And how can it happen?
Well, frankly, a big reason why we see these numbers is because Democrats have not done as good a job in the past few years of reaching every voter in every community where they are, how they receive their information, and we're beginning to do that. And I think it's important that first we listen and we talk with voters about the issues that they care about and that we present solutions on how we're going to address those issues. And we are doing that. And so, we've got a lot of work to do to rebuild that trust, but it all starts with reaching out into every community, leaving no one behind, and bringing them along with us to build a better America.
All right. Well, we will follow along with you. We definitely appreciate your time today. Appreciate you, Jennifer McClellan. Thank you for being here, Democratic Congresswoman from Virginia. Great conversation. Thank you.